After their surprise reveal a couple of weeks ago, fans were absolutely desperate for more information on the original Gotei 13, characters we've been waiting years to learn the identities of. Many fans speculated that the special end credits sequence featuring artwork of these characters for that particular episode of the Thousand Year Blood War was in fact revealing which division each captain was a member of, but I wanted to wait for something more official before actually talking about it, and finally we have that information. Kubo has given us more info on these characters, their names, their actual divisions, plus full body shot versions of each character from that initial colour page spread that he gave us, plus an additional piece of artwork per captain as well. So in this video I want to dive into everything we know currently about that original Gotei 13 that was believed to be nothing more than a bloodthirsty, brutal mob of thugs and killers, that same Gotei 13 that repelled Yhwach and his Lichtreich invasion 1,000 years ago. Bear in mind before we begin that we still don't know much at all about these characters, and I'm really hoping that we get even more information in the weeks and months ahead, though to be honest I'm just grateful to have this at all, and I will of course be including some of my own speculation as we go through the video as well. But before we get started, if you haven't hit subscribe yet, make sure to do that now for more Bleach content like this every single week, and if you like the video, give it a thumbs up to help support me and the channel, and if you want to take that support for me another step further, I do also have a Patreon as well, and I want to give a massive shout out and thank you to everyone who is supporting me over there on Patreon. I really do appreciate it. And of course, if you couldn't tell by the subject matter of this video, there will in fact be spoilers for the 1,000 Year Blood War arc ahead. So the speculation was indeed correct. That unique anime ending sequence was indeed telling us which captain was the leader of which division, except somehow they managed to mix up squads 2 and 3. I'm not entirely sure how that made it all the way through to the episode actually airing, but it really did throw me and many others for a loop, as I was certain that yes, they were showing them in the division order, but I was also certain that that Shihoin looking character had to have been the captain of Squad 2, so it really did throw me for a loop, but I was happy to see that was a mistake and that we were right all along. And one last tidbit of information regarding this set of captains as a group. Unlike later on where the Gotei 13's individual divisions would get their own specific division colour, as showcased by the inner lining on the captain's Hayori, here we can see that each of these captains has the same colour, presumably at this time just the official colour of the Gotei 13 itself, being a deep blood red, rather fittingly. So to begin with, of course, we have Yamamoto Shigekuni Genryuusai, the head captain, the founder of the Gotei 13 itself, and of course the first captain of the first division. One of only 2 captains that we actually knew of prior to this reveal. You can see in this image that Yamamoto, of course, bears a design that's pretty similar to the one we get to see in his flashback with Sasakibe, and in those brief flashbacks we get during his battle with Roid. Here, on this particular design, as I mentioned in my original video on these characters, you can see that the wound on Yamamoto's forehead given to him by Chojuro Sasakibe, while healed over, still looks fresher than it would later on when it turns into just another thin scar in the present day, implying that this appearance here isn't too far removed from that flashback that we actually got. This is of course compounded by the fact that we actually get to see Sasakibe fighting alongside Yamamoto in that anime flashback, though it's unclear if Sasakibe is yet the vice-captain of the first division, or even if the concept of vice-captains even exists yet at this point. Moving on to our first new character, we have the first captain of the second division being Chika Shihoin. Yes, as many of us correctly predicted, this character was indeed an ancestor of the Shihoin family. Despite being the very first head of the second division, I think it's unlikely that Chika is in fact the original ancestral head of this noble house, since presumably they existed eons ago, back when the Soul King was originally sealed, which perhaps maybe goes some way to explaining why there aren't as many heads of the noble houses as I think many of us were expecting to be among this roster. Presumably quite some time has passed since that incident with the Soul King, as is explained in Can't Fear Your Own World, so maybe the noble houses have taken a considerable back seat since then and were not that actively involved in the Soul Society by the time Yamamoto created the military branch, the Gotei 13. It's difficult to know for sure, so I'm hoping we do get more information. Regardless, I absolutely love Chika's design. I love the snowy white hair combined with the trademark Shihoin golden eyes. He looks absolutely awesome. I love that on top of all that he has this affluent looking sunset orange scarf and waistband, and you get to see a pretty clear look at his sealed Zanpakuto toe as well, which feels quite unique when talking about the Shihoin family, considering with Yoruichi and Yushiro we never get to really see a Zanpakuto toe at all. But all of the different elements of his design, from the golden earrings combined with the golden ornate hilt of his Zanpakuto toe, and that smugness, that trademark smug grin of the Shihoin family, really give off the sense that he is the head of a wealthy noble house. And as if to hammer home that this character's descendants would in fact be Yoruichi and Yushiro, we get to see Chika killing Lichtreich soldiers using, of course, hand-to-hand combat. Up next we have the first captain of the 3rd Division, Kinroku Izuhara. I actually really like Kinroku's design. In that initial splash page, he is right at the back. It's really hard to get a good idea of what he actually looked like, but now that we have these full body shots, he might be one of my favourites. I really appreciate the understated simplicity of his design, combined with those lovely emerald green accents. He looks to be a stern, stoic, cool and calculated individual, and we get to see him in that flashback killing a Lichtreich soldier by cutting his throat. Now, Kinroku actually has a really interesting story behind him as far as I'm concerned. When we got that initial image, a lot of people were saying they thought this character might be Korinji Tenjiro from Squad Zero, because they share some facial similarities. And to be honest with you, I didn't see it at all. I was like, there's no way these are going to be the same character. But people were adamant that either he is Tenjiro or he is some kind of relation. And so while I maintained that that was not going to be the case, I was very surprised upon seeing this full body shot that he was wearing the exact same style of thick waistband, that thick sash that Tenjiro wears as well. So I kind of thought to myself, okay, maybe everyone has been right this entire time. Maybe he's not actually Tenjiro, but maybe he is some kind of a relation, perhaps his father or something like that. But no, it turns out that there doesn't seem to be any connection whatsoever. The only other Shinigami to wear a sash of this style that I can remember is Tetsuzaimon Iba from about the 1000-Year Blood War arc onwards. The first captain of the 4th Division is Chigiri Shijima, who is that monochromatic Shinigami, or at least that's what I was calling them before actually learning their name. But I have to say, I love Shijima's design. Now that we actually get a decent look at his face, he's not what I was expecting at all. I was expecting something really quite sinister, but instead what we get is this kind of strange, lazy, almost sleepy looking character who seems to be quite aloof, but generally speaking, based on a precedent, I'm wondering if he might not be one of the most dangerous of them all. In the first Quincy War, we get to see a brief shot of Shijima standing surrounded by a sea of blood and decapitated Quincy corpses. So that might reinforce that theory of mine that while he doesn't look like it from the outset, maybe Shijima is in fact one of the most bloodthirsty of the lot. Now, of course, what's interesting about this character is that he is the captain of the 4th Division, but there is no reason to believe that the 4th Division was yet the medical division. That specific role could easily have been instituted later on. And you have to imagine as well that considering these guys are supposed to be a monstrous group of just terrible people that don't care about their underlings, care as little about their allies as they do about their enemies, it seems counterintuitive to imagine that there would even be a medical division to begin with. But yeah, I really like the look of this character. I think the steely grey hair colour is so unique and does give him that really weird monochromatic feel. His skin is so pale in comparison to the colour of his hair. I think he looks fantastic. It might be about my second favourite design of the lot. Now, the first captain of the 5th Division is another confusing one to me, and it feels like something of a red herring on Kubo's part, which actually I think he has done a couple of times with this original set of characters. The 5th Division's captain was Danjiro Obana, who in my opinion so greatly resembles a member of the Shiba clan that I genuinely cannot believe that there is no relation there. I mean, just take a look at the expression on his face here. Can you not see Kaien nor Ishin making that same face? He fits right in. Right the way down to that goofy, heartfelt feeling, right the way down to the massive sideburns, and even the small markings on the tip of his nose shared by other Shiba clan members. I guess it's possible that he is related to the Shiba clan, but maybe has decided to renounce their name, perhaps after their objection to the treatment of the Soul King, however many years prior to this that was. Or he could have no relation whatsoever. Regardless, I think he looks really cool, and his design stands out from the rest of the crowd. He looks quite unique, thanks to his striking aqua blue gauntlets and of course his light brown hair, which goes back into a ponytail. He looks really cool, and again, I just can't wait to find out more about him. Compared to the rest of the captains, he seems to be rather jovial, light-hearted, and it's hard to imagine him as a cold-blooded killer, though we do again get some evidence of that in the flashback to the first battle. Now again, this is another interesting one. The first head of the 6th division is Furofushi Saito, the purple-haired girl with the eye patch that everyone seems to have taken a real liking to. I kind of imagined with her prominent position on that colour page spread that she would go down as a fan favourite, and that absolutely seems to be the case. Now, while it seems like the Shihoin family has held a seat at the 2nd division since its inception, it's pretty clear that Saito is not a member of the Kuchiki clan, implying that the Kuchiki clan has not been intimately linked with the 6th division since the beginning. I guess it's possible that Saito could maybe marry into the Kuchiki household, although looking at her brutish and bloodthirsty nature, I'm not entirely sure if that would really work out. Personally, while Saito definitely looks like a few Bleach characters like Riruka for example, I definitely maintain that she has a nearly uncanny resemblance to Kyoraku Zanpakuto Katen. From the twin tails of purple hair right down to having an eye patch as well, that seems far too similar to me to be a coincidence, but there could be no connection whatsoever. Coming up next, we have what still is my absolute favourite design of the lot of them, Nobutsuna Shigyo, the first captain of the 7th division, and I want to begin this one by saying I freaking called it. About the only prediction I actually managed to get right here, but I am convinced that this guy is one of the ancestors of the exiled Beast clan that Komamura is a part of. Like I said in my original video, Kubo has been known to drop hints like this before with a character's outfit, and to me, the fact that this guy was wearing a massive fur pelt around his shoulders, in my opinion, seemed to symbolise that it was kind of foreshadowing what he might become. And so in my eyes, it makes perfect sense that this guy, who also looks, by the way, incredibly sinister, would become a member of that so-called group of sinners that eventually become these werewolf-style beings. Now, of course, none of this may end up being true, and it could have just been a lucky guess on my part, but what is confirmed is that he is the first captain of the 7th division, the same division that Komamura would later lead. In my opinion, it just fits so very well. This character, Nobutsuna, he's extremely tall, lanky, feral looking, like I said, he looks evil, he has this strange mottled skin around his eyes and his wrists, which maybe is a sign that he is beginning to transform already, or like I said, this character just has nothing to do with the Beast clan whatsoever. Either way, I can't wait to find out, but I was pretty giddy to see that he did lead the 7th division. And now, judging by the amount of fan art I have seen of this character, we have one of the most popular captains of the lot in the first captain of the 8th division, Batsu'unsai Katori. Now again, this is another character that myself and basically everyone else guessed correctly. We all assumed Katori was going to be the captain of the 8th division, though it's kind of weird that she is. Of course, Katori greatly resembles both Lisa and Nanao, despite there being no familial connection between apparently any of these characters. The 8th division just apparently attracts black-haired, bespectacled women. I guess it's possible that Katori could be an ancestor of Lisa, maybe she married into the Yadomaru family, but the Issei clan I would imagine has been around since at least maybe as long as this original Gotei. Now, Katori is interesting that she seems to be one of the few captains here who is actually revealing her Shikai to us. Now, I guess it could be the base form of her Zanpakuto, but personally I don't believe it, because it does seem that she has a sheath hanging from her waist which looks to be in the shape of a regular katana. But I actually really like her Shikai. It's very sleek and very regal looking. She has a golden spear with these looped tassels hanging from one end and this broad, curved, double-edged blade attached to the other. I love the way she's holding it in her official artwork, and of course you can see her cleaving up Quincy with it in the flashback in the anime, so she's clearly exceptionally skilled. The original captain of the 9th Division is a character called Entetsu Kumoi. Now, Entetsu maybe has my quote-unquote least favourite design of the lot of them. I still like it, I still think he looks cool, and I really appreciate how unique he looks, but to me it's probably just the least interesting of the lot. That being said, his weird lipless mouth with these golden teeth that seem to be fitted to the exterior of his mouth instead, that is a very interesting design choice, and I do like the spectacles that he has, and his body is also covered in these curved, almost crescent moon scars. Now, Entetsu seems to be the second captain that is revealing his Shikai here, which seems to take the form of a long, ringed club of sorts that we get to see him bashing a Quincy's head in during their flashback. Now, I've got one last thing to talk about regarding Entetsu that in my opinion is the most interesting thing about this character so far. Do you recognise the name Kumoi? I wouldn't blame you if you didn't, but it's the family name of the villain from the filler arc, the Kasumi Oji arc, Gyokaku Kumoi. Gyokaku Kumoi was one of the clan leaders for the Kasumi Oji clan, who on the outside portrayed this kind of kindly old man who was looking after the princess, but in reality he wanted to usurp control of the clan for himself. What's really interesting about this is outside of sharing the same family name, these two characters also share those same, almost exact same in design, spectacles, so I imagine Kubo does seem to be consciously trying to draw comparisons between these two characters. Really kind of cool. Gyokaku Kumoi is not exactly a popular or well-known character, plus he is only from a filler arc currently, but it does seem like Kubo is trying to consciously connect these two as if they're related, which is really, in my opinion, kind of awesome because Gyokaku Kumoi is a bit of a deep cut. So with the first captain of the 10th Division, we have another, in my opinion, red herring from Kubo. Much like Danjiro Obana before him, this character, Furuoki Otogawa, was pegged by many to be an ancestor of the Kuchiki clan. I mean, he bears a striking resemblance, of course, to Byakuya's father, and he really looks like he would fit in with that household. His straw hat, his amigasa hat that he wears, would seem to imply the nature of a traditional samurai, which again, as I mentioned in my 6th Division overview, is a trait heavily emphasised and seen in members of the 6th Division, while his patterned teal gloves that he has seem again to imply some kind of wealth or nobility. But at least for now, again, it does seem like he is no relation to the Kuchiki household at all. Kubo draws him carrying a blue book at one point. Again, I'm not sure what that is. If he is related to the Kuchiki household, maybe he is chronicling the history of Soul Society. They are known to be the history keepers of the Gotei 13 after all, so that would be a neat little detail, but if he's not related to them at all, which it doesn't seem like he is, I have no idea what that's for whatsoever. A cool little design detail for Otogawa, however, is the fact that the underside of all of his hair seems to be bright blue as well, which I think is pretty cool. The first captain of the 11th Division is well known to all of us, of course being the bloodthirsty Yachiru Unohana and the very first Kenpachi, alongside Yamamoto, the only captain we knew prior to this reveal. She looks ghostly, she looks wraith-like, and we know of course that she has an insatiable lust for battle, particularly back 1,000 years ago. In the anime's flashback, we see, as she confronts the Lichtreich, that she already bears the scar that she gained from her battle with Kenpachi Zaraki, meaning that this battle against Yhwach takes place at least some time after Unohana's battle against the child Zaraki. The massive, rotund captain Uhin Zenjoji is the first captain of the 12th Division, and despite this guy not really being my favourite design of all of them, I do feel a sort of strange fondness for him, because out of all of those original silhouettes, his is the one that always stood out the most by far, and is of course easily the most recognisable and comparable today. Now, although he is wearing face paint or makeup, or at least some kind of marking in a very similar fashion to what Mayuri would seemingly do however many years later, I don't think there's any connection here whatsoever. And it's important to remember as well that the 12th Division only really became affiliated with science and invention with the appointment of Kisuke Urahara 110 years prior to the main storyline, once he founded the Research and Development Department. But I've got to be honest, after seeing Zenjoji's design in full, I do actually quite like it. He's actually really quite unique looking, and I think he looks pretty cool. That marking that he bears on his face, that massive red U that goes under his lip and back up over his head again, he wears it all over his body. It's even emblazoned on his outfit, so I wonder if it's some kind of familial emblem, perhaps. There were theories floating around that this character was a member of some kind of a nobility due to the intricate outfit that he wears underneath his Shinigami uniform. And in fact, if we even look at the back of Zenjoji's head, we can see that his hairstyle is also shaped in that same U. I honestly wouldn't be surprised if this adherence to this U marking is more of a vanity thing than anything else, because of course his first name begins with a U. And it's absolutely not outside of Kubo's wheelhouse to pay attention to and utilize the English lettering in his design like that, rather than just the native Japanese characters. In the first Quincy War, we get to see Zenjoji's immense physical strength as he grabs a couple of Quincy and crushes their heads together, which is a pretty cool moment. And finally, we come to the first captain of the 13th Division, Saizo Sakahone, who in my opinion might be one of the creepiest looking characters Kubo has ever created, and is certainly one of the most ancient looking elderly character designs that Kubo has ever come up with. He has this huge hunchback, his face is sunken and heavily wrinkled, drooping, almost totally obscuring his eyes, and he has this creepy, toothless grin. He seems to be so gaunt that his face looks skeletal, and if you move further down his design, you can even see a fully defined ribcage. Even more strangely than that, he appears to have one jet black eye, and I think he might even be missing his other eye completely. Instead, there's just an empty socket. He also seems to be quite short. His Hayori is massively oversized, which I think is kind of interesting as well. Considering these guys are the first ever captains, I'm surprised all of their Hayori weren't totally tailor-made, presumably again by Senjumaru. But in the first Quincy battle, we get a shot of him stabbing a defenseless Quincy on the ground. Now, he's either doing this out of some kind of cruel sadism, or he's putting this Quincy soldier out of his misery. I'll leave that up to you to decide. But yeah, that's basically everything we know about the original Gotei 13 so far. I probably butchered the pronunciation of their names. It's going to take some time to actually learn all of them. But I'm really excited that we're finally getting some information about these characters, some concrete knowledge, and it's really just so exciting to be able to speculate about a brand new set of Bleach characters once again. And of course, the big hope at the end of the day is that if Kubo does decide to move forward with this supposed Hell arc, then maybe these characters will be featured in some way or another. But that's it for the video, guys. What did you think about my speculation surrounding each of these different characters? Do you have your own thoughts regarding each of the individual captains? Please do let me know in the comments down below. But until next time, make sure to hit subscribe if you haven't done already, and until then, I'll catch you later. I'll see you then.